How's it going? It's me, Bo, back here on the Film Scene Investigation channel. It is review time, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the 1989 erotic thriller, Wild Orchid. Now, this is a movie that I came across when I was going through Mickey Rourke's filmography in the last few months. I looked at the synopsis, checked out the trailer online, and I thought I'd give it a go. Just before we get into the review, if you guys haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, Wild Orchid from December 1989 was a film that was directed by Zalman King, a filmmaker known for his erotic material. This movie was released, and upon its release there was some controversy. Since the years have passed, this movie has kind of gone into obscurity. As I said, when I was going through Mickey Rourke's filmography and saw this, I'd never heard of it before, and subsequently then going online and not seeing really, much discussion about the film. It's only really the real-life relationship that involved the co-stars that I guess the film is kind of remembered for. As for the plot, the movie centered around a character called Emily Reed, a young and up-and-coming lawyer who had just passed the bar and had successfully gotten a job at an international law firm. She had studied hard and sacrificed a lot to get to that position, and now she was ready to prove her worth, show what she could do. Emily's initial assignment was to be sent to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, where she would liaise with some clients and basically sort out this bailout deal that involved a hotel complex. This girl was thrown into the deep end, but she wasn't alone, as she was accompanied by her boss, Claudia Dennis, who was played by actress Jacqueline Bisset. Claudia was this fiery, middle-aged woman who wouldn't take any bullshit from anyone, and subsequently she took Emily under her wing and showed her what to do and not what to do. Emily had been thrown into the chaos, and she was either going to sink or swim. This was basically a test if she could handle the stressful job environment. When they arrived in sunny Brazil, the work at the complex was underway, with dozens of builders, lorries, trucks, everyone pulling together to get this development up and running. While things looked busy, there was no boss to be found, and that was the person that Claudia needed to talk to. It was vital that Claudia met with the man in charge, who was overseeing the operation to secure the deal, but he had left on a family wedding, leaving Claudia to basically chase after him. She kind of had no choice but to leave Emily right there in the complex and go get another plane out of Brazil. Emily, of course, was already just, trying to keep her head above water, and suddenly she was left to pick up the pieces. Mickey Rourke's character, James Wheeler, was then introduced into the story as this high-flying gangster type who immediately took a shine to Emily when he saw her in the restaurant that evening. He was brash and oozing with confidence, and he wasn't just gonna let this beautiful woman walk in and walk straight out of his life again, so he approached her. The two had a brief discussion, and Emily was quite taken back by this guy who, suddenly coming up to her and basically trying it on. But she, liked him, and the two decided to go on this date together, where James showed her all the local sights, trying to impress her. I guess he was, trying to make her feel special. He took her to this restaurant, they sat down, and, got to know each other. And while it was obvious that James was infatuated, Emily was a lot more hesitant. Yes, she found him attractive, this mysterious guy, who's charming her. And yeah, I mean, she was, interested, I guess, but she didn't know the guy. And ultimately, she was only there in the first place for work purposes. I mean, she was trying to close this deal out involving this hotel complex, not there to start this holiday romance. Still, James was persistent, and over the coming days, very quickly, the couple grew closer together. It really did seem like this romance was actually blossoming, but ultimately, because James was a jaded individual, he always pushed the boundaries and subsequently ended up putting Emily in some very compromising situations. Very quickly, Emily realized that James didn't just want this kind of, traditional romantic relationship. No, he wanted to play these sexual mind games with her to see how she would react. So all of this led to James talking Emily into sleeping with another man for cash. This was some sort of, I don't know, cuckold fantasy that he had and wanted to see Emily play it out for him. I have to say, at this point, I was starting to question where exactly, was this story going? Because, I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but I kind of expected to see a lot more of a, traditional romance, play out like it usually does. But, to insert these wild kind of depraved sex games, I was questioning what's going on. Anyways, we did see Emily agree to this, and she went to the hotel bar downstairs, dressed up very nicely, and was waiting to be picked up by someone. I will say that, she looked very sexy, very seductive, with that mask. Kind of gave me some Catwoman vibes. But anyways, she sat at the bar, and, it wasn't long before a businessman came over to try and seduce her. This hotshot businessman called Jerome, who was played by actor Bruce Greenwood. Well, he was trying all the tricks, trying to start a conversation. Hey, can I buy you a drink? But hey, he didn't have to try hard because, of course, Emily was there to find someone to sleep with. The two would end up back in Jerome's hotel room and subsequently, slept together while James looked on from below. It was quite something, because, ultimately you've got this character, Emily, who begrudgingly goes ahead with sleeping with this stranger for cash, all to satisfy another man's kind of depraved sexual fantasies. I didn't really expect it to play out like it did, but what was interesting was James's reaction to the whole thing playing out in front of him, seeing Emily naked at the window, with the guy. He kind of looked disappointed, and that was that kind of surprised me because, as I thought, this was what he wanted, but ultimately the fact that he was disappointed, it kind of made me think that this whole sex game was simply just a test for Emily to see how far she would go to please him. I think deep down he didn't really want to see Emily go through with that, but as I said, it was a test to see, and ultimately he realized that he could manipulate her and she would do anything he wanted. So Emily slept with this businessman, Jerome, and, well, that was it. She thought she would, never see him again. But in this weird coincidence, this guy, Jerome, ended up being one of the lawyers involved in the deal that involved Emily. And once he found out who Emily was, well, during the deal making, he decided to use that as leverage, which only enraged Claudia. So when watching Wild Orchid, I noticed how the film tapped in to the whole private sex party scene, with both James and Emily attending their ceremony. Everyone was dressed up wearing masks. You had naked women walking around. It was quite a sight to see. And for me, the whole thing visually was very reminiscent of the movie Eyes Wide Shut and that particular ceremony scene. While, of course, the ceremony scene in Eyes Wide Shut leaned in on the kind of sadistic, devil-like cult rituals, this ceremony that we saw in Wild Orchid was more of a performative sexual dance. You had the wild music, the vibrant colours, the women, dancing and performing. And of course, yes, it was a lot tamer in comparison. There was still an underlying sense of sexual debauchery to it all. I mean, these private sex parties have been going on for years. I'm sure they still go on now and will continue to go on in the future. It's just that when it comes to those types of things, then you're getting into, potential sex trafficking, slavery, all kinds of stuff. And it's just, I don't know, it's just not my cup of tea. Technically, this movie was very beautiful to look at, with the exotic locations and the wonderful cinematography by Gail Tattersall. Since the production was shot on location in Brazil, the filmmakers obviously wanted to make the most of the picturesque landscapes that they had at their disposal. I don't know if the filmmakers had some sort of partnership with the Brazilian government, but yes, there were times in the film that it almost seemed like a commercial for tourism. I think also, filming in such an exotic location, it was going to be hard for the filmmakers not to make this movie look good. And, it was easy because the whole place, the whole area in which they shot in Rio was, pretty stunning to look at. When it comes to the performances, I thought Mickey Rourke delivered a solid and pretty intriguing performance as James Wheeler, a man who stumbled upon this woman Emily and became completely infatuated with her. There was one moment specifically that stuck out to me, and that was the monologue that James gave inside the limousine, that sequence. And I must say, just listening to his whispery, soft voice delivering those lines, it was great. There was a certain vulnerability to how Mickey Rourke sounded, when he was younger. A certain conviction in his voice. You believed him when he delivered those lines. And it's just sad that over the years, that trait that he had disappeared with age. Now, one thing that I did notice was Mickey Rourke's appearance, specifically his face, as it seemed quite worn and puffy throughout the movie. Now, this was subtle, wasn't something that I think anyone would immediately recognize, but he definitely had done something to his face. So the official story is that Mickey Rourke in the mid-90s got some facial surgery after his lackluster boxing career. He had a broken nose and other facial injuries, so he ended up getting multiple surgeries and a facelift and we see how it turned out. But going back to 1988, when this movie was in production, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was just something off about his appearance. And I would say that it wouldn't be down to aging. Don't get me wrong, he was still a very good-looking guy back then. So, it is what it is. But I don't know, maybe some minor facial surgery would be my guess. I thought Carrie Odysee was certainly well cast playing Emily Reed, this young lawyer. It's crazy to think that the model was only 19 at the time, very young. And, when you take that into consideration, she really actually delivered quite a, pretty amazing performance, given the limited acting experience that she had at the time. Whether you liked her performance or not, I don't think you can deny that this model, Carrie Odysee, absolutely committed to the role. She did her best, and she was put in some quite compromising positions. Full frontal nudity, multiple sex scenes, all that kind of stuff. And she didn't hold back. Otis brought a real believable sense of vulnerability to the Emily character, and did it, while looking stunning in the process. But what's interesting to me is that I discovered that Brooke Shields was originally cast as Emily before pulling out at the last minute due to disagreements over the level of nudity that would be on show. So, Carrie Odysee, this was just, by chance she got this opportunity, and, well, she didn't let it pass her by, so credit to her. Before we get to dislikes, I should also comment on the controversy surrounding the Mickey Rourke-Carrie Odysee relationship. So when this film was in production, Wild Orchid, the two hooked up, and eventually that led to their marriage in 1992. While there was quite a big age gap, that didn't stop them. And subsequently they were married for a few years before breaking up. And in that time, Mickey Rourke got arrested for spousal abuse. It seemed like there was, quite a lot of issues going on between them. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. Is it plausible that some of this, domestic abuse, went on? Possibly, absolutely. It's plausible. But, I think ultimately for me, I can stay objective and separate the work from the worker. Regardless of what went on between the two, the fact is a Hollywood marriage was blossomed from this movie Wild Orchid, which, makes it quite a significant milestone in both their lives. So, dislikes for Wild Orchid from 1989. My biggest dislike for the film would be the ending, specifically the sex scene between James and Emily. Now, for me, this scene just went on for way too long, and to the point where, I'll be honest guys, I was getting pretty bored. Now, I've said this before in other reviews, but the whole lingering sex scenes, they just bore me, and they don't really hold any significance to the actual story. The issue is not the sex scenes, insert them, not a problem, by all means. But it's the length. You don't need to have them play out for minutes at a time. I understand, of course, this was to titillate the audience, to entice them to, watch this film. And, I'm sure a lot of, young adolescents, a lot of teenagers, probably got this on VHS as well and had a good time. But the point is, I watch these movies for, the story, the characters, the drama, not so much the full frontal nudity and sex scenes. Of course, the actual execution of the sex scenes in the film, they were, done quite tastefully. I'm not going to deny that, with the lighting and the camera movement. But what let it down was the length. Another dislike I have, well, it's more of a nitpick really, was the carnival scene that we saw towards the end of the film. You had, the actual carnival taking place in Rio, hundreds, dancers everywhere, floats, balloons, fireworks, all kinds of stuff going on. And visually, it was quite impressive to see. You also had the song Warrior by the band Public Image Limited playing along. And that was great. That's a great song. Love, John Lydon. But it just also went on for too long. And I got the impression that this was maybe the filmmakers trying to, capture that carnival atmosphere. But at some point I was just like, can we just move on and get back to the actual story? Eventually in the carnival we saw James show up, and the narrative then continued on. But that little kind of carnival interlude that was, good maybe 2.5, maybe 3 minutes. Just cut that down, please. And so, ratings for Wild Orchid from 1989. I'm going to be rating this movie a solid 4.9 out of 10. I enjoyed Wild Orchid for what it was, and that was simply a vibrant, erotic movie set in an exotic location with some intriguing dialogue. I thought the performances were good, and overall it's very entertaining. I enjoyed it. But that being said, I think if you're someone that's not really into this kind of genre, then you might find it a bit hard to appreciate. The Mickey Rourke, Carrie Odysee relationship that surrounded the movie, it certainly added an intrigue to the narrative. And I guess in a way, the filmmakers were trying to recapture some of that success that we'd seen with Mickey Rourke and the film 9.5 Weeks. Both this and 9.5 Weeks, they are different, but they also do have similar parallels. Unfortunately for this movie, it didn't really follow in the same footsteps, and it was never the big success that 9.5 Weeks was. If you've seen Wild Orchid, then please do let me know your thoughts and memories in the comment section below. For all those out there who have not seen this one yet, I would recommend it, but, cautiously. I think if you're a Mickey Rourke fan, and, I'm a big Mickey Rourke fan, then you have to watch this. It's a must watch, because this is certainly a better performance than some of his other films that I've seen. I'm not saying it's his greatest performance, but it's solid, absolutely. As for people, out there that don't really like erotic kind of dramas, maybe this one won't be for you. And well, that's all from me today, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this review of Wild Orchid from December 1989. I'll be back next week, of course, with another cult movie review. Don't forget, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. A big thank you to all my new subscribers. And, well, take care.